This is the ForeverRun Nitro from Puma, and it's a shoe designed for overpronators. Now, I normally don't review stability shoes because they tend to hurt my knees. So, will I be able to run in this shoe? It's time to lace up the ForeverRun Nitro and take it for a run. Yo, what's going on everybody? My name is Kofuzi and today I want to talk to you guys about the Puma ForeverRun Nitro. But before I give you my thoughts on this shoe, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that Puma sent to me for the purpose of review, so I did not have to pay for them. However, Puma not paying me to make this video or to use the shoe, and they're not going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Puma ForeverRun Nitro. First, let's go over some specs on the shoe. This is a tall shoe with a 10mm drop using two different densities of foam, and you can see them through these cutouts in the bottom of the shoe right here. Now, the idea with the two different densities of foam is that there is kind of a firmer density of a shell and then a softer kind of insert that sits inside, and that does a couple of different things. One of the things that it does is it makes for a softer ride, and the other thing that it does is it uses those channels of foam in order to help make sure that the foot gets guided through the foot strike, and what Puma is calling their run guide system. In terms of those foams, both of these foams, as far as I understand, are nitro-based foam. So they're taking a source material, heating it to a super high temperature, and then injecting it with nitrogen as it kind of cools and expands into the mold of the shoe. On the outsole, in addition to having those little windows into the softer insert or the core of the shoe, you also have Puma Grip, which is the rubber compound that Puma has been using to a great amount of success in their shoes, providing a lot of tacky stickiness, but also durability. While we're talking about the outsole and looking at the bottom of the shoe, it's worth noting that this is a very wide-based shoe, which is kind of another thing that shoe companies are doing these days in order to make shoes more stable without using some of those previously uncomfortable stability elements that really disagreed with my knees. And so this shoe as well is also very wide, and you can see it's wide in the heel and wide in the forefoot, and you can even see it kind of when you're looking at the back side of the shoe. It's just got a lot of junk in the trunk back here, and that's all in order to make sure that no matter how your foot may hit the ground, there's plenty of shoe to kind of like disperse the forces and make sure everything stays nice and stable as you're going through your strides. Up top, there is an engineered mesh that's using power tape, and what that does is help create some kind of internal supports and structure to the upper of the shoe, so that way you can keep the foot locked in place and on top of the foam where it needs to be in order to maintain that smooth rolling transition. There's also a padded tongue that's on here that's relatively thin, but still reminds me very much of a soccer cleat. And then there's padding along the back of the heel, a little bit more substantial than kind of just those heel bumpers that we've seen in some shoes, in order to make sure that the foot is comfortable in the shoe, but also to make sure that the ankle stays in place. There's also an asymmetrical heel counter back here that again is designed to make sure that the ankle doesn't slide around as the foot is hitting the ground, and it's all finished off with a pretty gigantic oversized pull tab. Now, Puma isn't telling us how much this shoe weighs on the website, but I weighed my reference size, US men's size 9, and this shoe came in on my scales at 9.6 ounces or 272 grams. Now with those specs out of the way, let's talk about what it was actually like to run in this shoe. And I felt like this shoe is definitely very soft and very cushioned. I really enjoyed the running experience. For me, I felt like I enjoyed it most at easy paces and even at some recovery paces as well. There's plenty of room in the shoe and plenty of comfort from that softer core that your foot is landing on every time your foot hits the ground. And because you do still have that outer layer of foam that is a little bit more firm, it's also a little bit more responsive as well. So it's not a mushy experience by any means, but you get a nice little bit of squish, and then you also get a nice little bit of spring as that foot is picking up off the ground. I feel like the run guide system is working really well, helping the foot kind of stay in alignment as it's hitting the ground. And I didn't find it to be kind of too obtrusive or bothersome to me as someone who's a little bit sensitive in a bad way way towards traditional stability elements. So I feel like it's providing a little bit of stability without it feeling like a stability shoe. And it reminds me of another Puma shoe, the Velocity Nitro, if you had put like a triple tall stack of very soft insole on top. So it still has that kind of daily trainer attitude to it, but just with a little bit more height and a little bit more softness to it. I do feel like it can pick up the pace a little bit. So if you had a longer run or an easy run with strides, I feel like the ForeverRun Nitro would be an easy choice to be able to pick for the day. But I'm not sure, because it is a little bit bigger of a shoe and it is a little bit of a heavier of a shoe. I'm not sure that this is a shoe that I would necessarily take for workouts. The other drawback that I would say that's kind of related to that is the fact that I feel like overall, I was a bit surprised at how kind of imprecise the fit on this shoe felt. Now, ultimately, I feel like the length of the shoe was right for me and I went true to size, and I feel like that's the right size. But when it came to kind of the area around the sides of the heel and at the top of the foot, I felt like there was just a lot of extra room in here. So I don't know if this shoe is going to be available in a wide, but I feel like for those of you who sometimes like a shoe that fits a little bit more like a wide than it does like a standard fitting shoe, this is a shoe that you might actually really enjoy. Although for me, it felt like it was just a little bit sloppy, and I wish that things were just a little bit more kind of snug and secure kind of in this area of the shoe. But that being said, that was just a very minor gripe that I have with the shoe, and I feel like this is a pretty successful entrant into that modern take on stability type of shoe. So overall, I'm going to say that the ForeverRun Nitro is best for easy runs, recovery runs, or pretty much most of your daily training, especially if you need just a little bit of overpronation protection. I think heavy overpronators, it still might not be enough for you, but for those of you who sometimes like a stability kind of shoe, this is going to be a daily trainer that you are going to really like, especially if you're one of those taller, bigger runners where other shoes kind of in this category might be bottoming out for you. I feel like this shoe is going to be right up your alley. In terms of shoes that you can pair it with, I think that this is a daily trainer, and so I feel like the pairing options are going to be in the workout and or race space. And if we're going to stay with Puma, I think that one shoe you should look at is the DJI Elite 2. I feel like they put a little bit more cushion in it compared to last year, so I think it's much more suitable for those marathon type of workouts. But also they're using a similar Nitro foam, although this is kind of like the stepped up version because it's the Nitro Elite foam, but you're gonna get a similar nitrogen injected foam kind of feel from these two shoes. The other shoe, staying within Nitro foams, but not in the same brand, I think that another shoe that you could look at is the Brooks Hyperion Max, which is a Nitro foam based shoe. There's no plate in this one, but this is a much firmer version of a Nitro foam that is going to be nice and springy for when you're putting in some of those faster paces and workouts. I do really like this one for those types of sessions. Now let's talk about the buying guide for this shoe. The shoe's pretty much brand new. It's $150, which feels kind of like a lot, and I don't think you're gonna be able to find it on sale because it is a recently released shoe. But I also feel like the $150 price might be right given some of the alternatives. One shoe that I think lines up really well against this shoe is going to be the Asics Glide Ride 3. This was one of my favorite kind of max cushion shoes of last year. It also uses two different densities of foam to create a soft yet springy experience. And it also uses the shape and geometry of those foams to kind of guide the foot through the foot strike to give you a little bit more of a stable experience than in a traditional max cushion or daily trainer kind of shoe. That shoe is also at $150, and at least in the US, it's not on sale. So you're looking at $150 with the Asics and $150 with the Puma. Although I do know in Europe, a lot of you guys have been telling me you're able to find this shoe on a significant discount, and I'd give the edge there for sure in that situation. The other shoe that I think could stack up nicely against the ForeverRun is the Saucony Endorphin Shift. Now, I reviewed the Endorphin Shift 1, and for me, that felt like it was a little bit too firm and a little bit too much of a stability type of shoe. I felt a lot of those stability type elements in it, and it disagreed with my knees quite a bit, so I didn't run a ton in it, and I haven't reviewed the subsequent models since. But a lot of those things that we're talking about, a little bit of firmness that is being used to guide the foot in a very specific direction, and some of those extra stability features in the heel cup or heel counter type of area are going to make that shoe line up really nicely against the ForeverRun Nitro as well. So if you're looking at the one, you should probably be looking at the other. And surprise, surprise, the price on that shoe is also $150. So it seems like if you're looking for that kind of hint of stability using different types of foam to guide the way that the foot is hitting the ground on your foot strike, it looks like you're going to be looking at spending about $150. If you have any questions about any of the shoes I talked about today, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?